Miss Martin Muses, and it's a day that ends in Y. So therefore, another day that people claim that they are doing what Tolkien did, and they don't. First of all, my goodness, the War of the Rohirrim. Rohirrim, rather. My goodness. They have the nerve to call it not the War of the Rohirrim. They call it the Lord of the Rings, the War of the Rohirrim. Why the Lord of the Rings? I mean, that's not in the story. That's not part of the story. Why? Because they're turning it into a franchise. So they're going to keep going and going and going and going and going with these and just say, this is in the Lord of the Rings verse or something as asinine. I'm just waiting for the Lord of the Rings, the Hobbit, the Lord of the Rings, the Silmarillion, the Lord of the Rings, whatever. It's just absurd. So we have the Lord of the Rings, the War of the Rohirrim. It is an animated thing, kind of done in an anime style. Showed up on Thursday night. That's when it opened. Now, I did not see it. We will be discussing it. We are going to be going through the plot points. So if for some reason you do not want to be spoiled about this, well, then come back later after you've seen it. But I just couldn't believe when I read the plot. I mean, it is so terrible. And of course, a lot of people were like, oh, it's the same chick that wrote The Lord of the Rings. Sort of. She mainly gave the helm over to her daughter, who does not share the same last name. So it took me a while to figure that out. And people are like, oh, this will be different than the Rings of Power. And I was maybe one of them a little bit. I'm like, oh, well, this might actually be kind of good. Turns out just a whole bunch of memberberries, from what I understand. They brought Miranda Otto along to narrate it, to maybe give it some legitimacy. I heard that they're using the music. I saw in the preview, the trailer, they had them walking up in the two towers, and then it dissolves into everything, and it uses the same sets, all of that. But it's not the story that Tolkien wrote. So what we're going to do, first of all, hello, it's Swift -1. Oh, you have changed thy name again. Thank you for being here, and thank you everyone that will be here in the replay. And let's see, that's it. Okay, for now. And for those of you that I see lurking, welcome. Thank you for being here. Now let's go ahead and look at the synopsis. I'm getting this from Wikipedia, as you shall see. Can't believe this. All right, here we go. Set 183 years before the events of the Peter Jackson's The Lord of the Rings film trilogy. I regret it. I regret it with every fiber of my being. What do I regret? I regret that during the first season of The Rings of Power, was going around, Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings, to kind of show up The Rings of Power. I wasn't doing it by the time the second season came around because I was not comfortable with it, because you know what? Only one man owns the Lord of the Rings. There is only one Lord of the Rings, and that is J.R. Tolkien. But see, here we go. Yeah, Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings. So that made us try to kind of feel better. I mean, what are they going to do next? You know, Peter Jackson's, whatever that Gollum thing is going to be. This is just the same old, same old. And what they are doing here is just as bad as what they did with the Rings of Power. Now, sometimes people were like, but Peter Jackson made changes to the story when he did his, he did. And many of them I did not like. However, the essence of the story was the same. They kept Frodo as a hero. We got from point A to point B to point C to point D. The changes that they did, like some of the silly stuff with Arwen, and Faramir, well, that wasn't silly. That was a disgrace. It wasn't quite the same. And they objectively were good movies. But here we have them just completely changing the story. Hello, everyone coming in. Welcome to Miss Martin Muses. So, set 183 years before the events of the Peter Jackson's The Lord of the Rings film trilogy, The War of the Rohirrim tells the story of Helm Hammerhand. Liar! They are lying. They sit on a throne of lies. A legendary king of Rohan and his family as they defend their kingdom against an army of Dunlendings. The voice of Eowyn narrates the story and tells how the story of Hera. Oh boy, or do they pronounce her Hera in the show, in the movie? I don't know, and I don't care. I can mispronounce her if I want to, because she's not real. Well, then again, none of them are real, but you know the difference. A would-be shield maiden of Rohan, and the king's daughter. The story of Hera, a would-be shield maiden of Rohan, and will not be remembered by the time of the War of the Ring. So that's how they're gonna get around it. It's like, no, it was there, but it wasn't remembered, or maybe male patriarchy didn't allow it to be told. Oh my gosh. That in itself is also just kind of crapping on the whole Tolkien story is a myth. That's actually probably how they justify it. It's like, well, it's a myth, isn't it? Oh, for crying out loud. It is a dig at Outlaw. Hello, thank you for being here. Welcome to Miss Martin Muses this midday for some midday musings. Yeah, so they get done. I mean, even in this Wikipedia article, they're saying it tells the story of Helm Hammerhand. And then they go, this is the story of Hera. And here's the whole thing. A would-be shield maid of Rohan and the king's daughter. The only thing different from Eowyn is king's niece. So Eowyn 2.0. It also takes away from the unique nature of Eowyn and what her accomplishment was. There was a reason why what she did was so epic. And it was a part of a prophecy, all of that. Oy. All right. Freka, a Dunlending lord, comes to the hall of King Helm with his son Wulf, a childhood friend of Hera, and a handful of his men. Freka is unimpressed that Hera is to be married to a lord of Gondor and tries to force a marriage between Wulf and Hera in order to usurp the throne of Rohan. Helm and Freka begin a fist fight outside the hall, during which Helm unintentionally kills Freka with a single blow, earning Helm the nickname Hammerhand. Wulf, devastated, vows revenge. Well, so far we're kind of following the story. Not so bad. Wulf leaves and is not seen or heard for years. One day, she and her cousin Freyalaf, I'm assuming she is referring to Hera, encounter a dead Sothrid warrior, a tamer of Oliphants. The warrior's Oliphant, Rabid, appears and attacks. Okay, here we go. Oh my gosh. Hera disposes of it by luring it to a lake where it is eaten by a watcher in the water. Remember that? However, she is kidnapped by General Targ, one of Freka's generals who is nearby. Okay. I just skimmed this summary. What on earth am I reading? Hera is taken to Wulf's stronghold at Isengard. Oh my gosh, they're bringing her to Isengard. And she discovers that he has become High Lord of the Dunlendings, a host of Dunlending rebels from the hill tribes. She offers to marry him to stop his attacking Rohan, but Freyleth and her aunt Olwen rescue her. Wait, there's an Aunt Olwen? This reminds me of what they did with Rings of Power, where they just put YNs and WYNs on names to make it look we're being accurate. Wolf invades Rohan. Helm thinks Freyla failed to protect Hera and sees his advice of fleeing Edoras for the Hornburg as cowardice and casts him out. Oh my gosh. Freyla, still loyal, goes with his army to Dunharrow. Helm prepares for battle after Lord Thorn promises to raise men. Oh, okay. Raise men. Gotcha. Worded weirdly. Hera discovers that Thorn is a traitor. Of course, Hera's the only one that discovers it because apparently this is all about her. He attempts to kill her, only to be killed in the struggle. Oh, really? Oh, for crying out loud. Hera evacuates Edoras to the Hornburg. Wait. Sorry. Hera evacuates Edoras to the Hornburg. Realizing that her father has been betrayed and his army is outnumbered. They are copying the Two Towers. What the hell? Because remember, that's what Eowyn did, and that was also not really accurate. Oh my gosh. Hama is killed during the battle, and Haleth is killed by a wolf in front of Helm at the entrance to the Hornburg. Maybe one or two sentences of this is accurate. Wolf begins a siege of the Hornburg, which lasts the winter and begins to build an enormous siege tower. Okay. Adega Outlaw says it right here. Evil cannot create. They can't. They just can't. They don't have the mindset. It's like St. Paul says, if the eye is not clear, how dark will be the darkness? Paraphrasing there. My gosh, what a mess. I was not going to pay money to see this. There was no way. Even if I wanted to hate watch, and I'm not judging people that do. I already have a religion, so I'm not going to judge other people. If that makes sense, because I think sometimes people make their anti-woke crusades a sort of a religion, which isn't cool. Sounds more like Puritanism than anything else. No. If you saw it, fine, you saw it. I didn't see it because I would rather eat paste than see this movie. It sounded so dull and so boring, and yeah, I didn't want to give it money. Yikes. All right, what's going to happen next? Helm, wounded and grief stricken. I think they mean grief stricken. Helm, wounded and grief stricken, sneaks out at night to kill Wolf's forces, only using his fist, and dies fighting outside the gates of the Hornburg, frozen, standing up, knees unbent. That is true. He is a total badass in this portion of the story. I wonder if they actually showed it in the cartoon. While seeking for Helm during one of his night raids, oh my gosh, once again, Hera, whatever her name is. While seeking for Helm during one of his night raids, Hera chances upon two orcs. Oh my gosh. So now we got orcs in here from Mordor who are taking rings from the dead as instructed by their master. Are they really? Are they trying to make it that their master is Sauron? I didn't see it, so anyone that saw it, tell me. Hera girl bosses or climbs to an eyrie, giving an eagle helm's armor to fly to Freyalif for help. Wait, wait, so she's allowed to fly? Is that what they're saying? She climbs to near giving an eagle helm's armor, giving or given to fly to Freyalif for help. Oh man. Oh, if I'm reading this correctly, they bring the eagles. Hera rides onto the siege tower bridge Wolf has just lowered to invade the Hornburg and challenges him to combat. Wow! Oh, hey, Timon, bring on the meteor, please. What am I reading? This isn't even fan fiction. I just can't. I can't. I can't deal. Challenges him to combat. Okay. She challenges him to combat to distract him and his army from the Rohirrim sneaking out via a secret back passage, the one used by Helm during his night raids on Wolf's men. Oh. She defeats Wolf. No, no, no. Don't do this to me. She defeats Wolf, saying he gave his word to surrender. Targ, who had counseled Wolf not to be brutal or rash, agrees with her, but Wolf murders him. Okay. Freylof and cavalry arrive. Freylof uses Helm's horn and armor to scare the Dunlendings into thinking Helm's wraith is come. And they flee. Wolf feigns surrender, but then knifes Hera. Oh, good. Oh, good. And the crowd cheered. I hope I'm pronouncing Freylof wrong. I believe I am. It's been a while. Let me rephrase it. DEI fiction. Yeah. Well, Wolf was a fatty. She could have just run around him until she was exhausted. Yeah. But even a fat dude, I mean, come on. I mean, the whole thing about Eowyn, first of all, Eowyn's a badass. Second of all, it was like this prophecy thing. Like she was the only one that could do it in the sense of all the circumstances were correct for her to kill the Night King. And now, okay, if every woman in Rohan was a shield maiden badass, then no one in Rohan was a shield maiden badass. All right. We last came to the happy ending where Hera is killed. Oh no, oops. Olwen, the ant, throws her a shield with which she chokes Wolf to death, ending the war. Ending the war. So she gets thrown a shield. First of all, how does she get thrown a shield? Where did this come from? With which she chokes Wolf to death, ending the war. Well, of course, it was a woman. Helm goes on to be the namesake for the Valley of the Hornburg and its stronghold. Well, yes, we know that. Helm's Deep. Saruman the White, is the new keeper of Isengard and offers friendship to the new king, Freyaluf. Remember Saruman? Saruman the White? Hera, uninterested in ruling. Why would she rule? Okay. Hera, uninterested in ruling, goes off with Olwen to seek adventure. Oh, the girls are going off together to have adventures. Her first is meeting Gandalf. This is where, if you all could see me, you would see my soul dying through my eyes. So, remember Gandalf? Who has questions about the orcs she saw hunting for rings. Oh, that's how they're tying it in with the Lord of the Rings. Oh, while Freyaluf rebuilds Edoras and a new hall, Meduseld. Wait a second, that was already there. Meduseld, wasn't it? Oh, okay, they're going to be like, remember? Meduseld? Am I saying it right? Meduseld? I forget which emphasis it got. I can't even think straight right now. Son of a gun. What did I just read? Ooh. All right. Now, I think I've done this previously, but oh my gosh. Let me see what they say here. Okay. This is worth saying. Where Well, they've got a lot here. Oh, yeah, here it would be. As development of the script progressed, the writers decided to introduce a narrator. They decided to introduce a narrator who would be telling the film story as part of an oral tradition. Well, if it was an oral tradition, it still would have been remembered because most things are oral and then they're later written down. That's even the way Tolkien had it with the Lord of the Rings and the Silmarillion. The character Eowyn from the main events of the Lord of the Rings was chosen, Boyan said, having a familiar voice, remember, in the film, helped the writers with their work. Oh my gosh. Tolkien gave details of the deaths of Helm and his sons, Haleth and Hama, but the fate of his unnamed daughter is left unclear. That's true. Yeah, unnamed and just passing. We know what happened to her. Most likely, she stuck around and ended up getting married and had a bunch of babies, probably died in childbirth. That's what happened. Not that that was necessarily a fun thing, but hey, that's life. That was life back then. The producers decided to expand on her role, making her the protagonist of the film. There we go. They lie. We're gonna do the story of Helm Hammerhand, but the protagonist is gonna be this chick. Really? The first name suggested for the character starts with H, but Boyan thought it should start with the same letter as Helm, Haleth, and Hama. She asked Walsh for ideas and later suggested they name her after Hera Hilmar. Yeah, Icelandic actress who starred in the film mortal engines. So they named her after an Icelandic chick. So apparently this name does have some etymology there. But yeah, so they named her for an actress. And they spelled it Hera based on the Old English. It was not intended to be a reference to the goddess of the ancient Greek religion. All right, fine. The writers did not want to completely invent her characterization themselves. Well, what were you supposed to do? So they suggested they take inspiration from a historical female leader, some chick who I won't pronounce because I don't know how to pronounce these things, since she played a part similar role to Heron, and Tolkien was himself inspired by such historical figures. You see how they're trying to pull it other, but see, this is faithful to Tolkien. Tolkien, was kind of inspired by, historical figures. So we can do that. We can invent things. Though the character can fight and ride horses like the men of Rohirrim, the writers were not interested in depicting her as a warrior princess. Well, isn't that what I just read? That they did do that? Instead, they focused her character arc on the choices she makes and choices that others make, which impact her life. At least they're being some truthful here. They also took inspiration from Tolkien's other female characters, including Eowyn. Another character who was expanded on for the film is Freyleth, who's Helm's nephew who eventually inherits the throne. Only Freyleth's mother is known, creating the possibility that his father is not Rohirrim and instead from a neighboring land. Boyens believed that going in this direction made Freyleth's ascension to the throne feel unlikely to audiences and helped differentiate him from the Lord of the Rings character Éomer, who has a similar story. Or, how's this? Just adapt the friggin' story. Making every excuse possible except for the obvious one. That you are full of garbage. Timon says, I'm beyond that point. Ambivalence, that's the word, or maybe apathy. Yeah. Did you get my DM? Oh, no, I did not. I've been too busy ranting like a lunatic. Hi, Salty Traveling Sea. Okay, let me see your DM here. Janie Mac. What on earth? What on earth? I mean, what on earth? There he is. Okay, this was something from an article. Oh, okay. So, Salty Traveling Sea gives me an article, so I'm going to go ahead and look at this. Oh my gosh, this is going to make me lose my crap. Let me see if I can find the actual article that is being referenced here. Wow. Speaking to the film's development and production histories during a promotional interview. Okay, they don't give a reference to the interview. Bounding into comics for shame. Or if they do, I can't find it very clearly. And I don't like to put up Bounding into comics stuff on my stream because of too many ads. It really ruins it for me. So here, I'm going to take the screenshot that Salty Traveling Sea gave me and put it up. Sometimes they do this to the point where you can almost dox you. Because AI or whatever it is starts to put like a, I don't know, in the advertisement, it's like, hey, see deals near you. You who live in this city near this place. Or since you live near here and it's a type of car I'm using, and someone can just look up, oh, how many dealerships are in this area? It's really ridiculous. All right, I'm almost getting there. Thank you for being patient, everyone, and thank you for the reference. This is really bad. I might have to do a separate thing on this, but today is not that day. Okay, let me make sure. All right, and this is what's wrong with everything. I should have known that see, shame on us and shame on anyone that worships at the altar of Peter Jackson or any of them. I myself said at the beginning of the stream that I fell for it. Ah, look who's here. It's Jacob Ironside. Thank you for being here. Great to see you. And give me a rose. Yay. By the way, anyone popping in that is monetized, can you tell me what on earth this stuff is about gifts? They're like, there's a new way to, use your monetization. And I, for the life of me, can't figure it out. So if you know, please tell me. All right, here we go. What was said? Wolf finds himself on the receiving end of Hera's sword in The Lord of the Rings, the War of the... Oh, I don't even want to say it. To this end, Boyens was then asked if the film's production team had taken into consideration the vocal pushback from Tolkien's fans regarding these changes. To which she confirmed, I don't think you can. What on earth does that mean? Okay. It's like Tolkien didn't just write books. He wrote an entire mythology. See how they use truth to lie? A vast, incredible work which is so detailed and so complex and works on so many different layers. And you can leave that alone and not touch it. But he himself did not want that. Whoa, 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 whoa. He himself did not want that. And he himself had said he wanted other minds to come to it. No, he didn't. People take a certain letter of his out of context for that, but no. Quite the contrary. So when he passed away, he passed the torch to his son, Christopher Tolkien. He was the keeper of the keys. If he wanted other minds to come to it, he would have he wouldn't have done what he did with his son. Are they pulling out of their butts? Well, because, he let his son do it? Wait. Oh my gosh. But you know what? You really think this is what Tolkien would want? Anyone that knows anything about Tolkien or his story or his legendarium, they know this is not what he would want. This is not his way of telling stories. This is not his themes. He told us what they were. And who made you the arbiter of what Tolkien wrote? This is the exact same thing that they did with the Rings of Power. It's like, well, since Tolkien didn't say this, well, then we can be the ones to do this. I'll say it once, I'll say it twice, and I'm going to say it one more time. Yes, I will, precious. I will say, I'm a musician. So that means I'm going to write Beethoven's 10th Symphony. Because, he wrote symphonies and lots of people write symphonies. So Beethoven's 10th Symphony. Yay. Oh my gosh. Okay, people are saying things. Let me see what you have. I'm starting to rant. A very good morning. Okay, Salty says, that quote tells you everything you need to know about the future Warner strip mining Lord of the Rings. Yeah. Well, just the fact that they're calling it the Lord of the Rings this, the Lord of the Rings that. It's like, no, that's not what Tolkien... Well, it's not his story. It's not his anything. Let me see. They also say, yeah, she doesn't care what Tolkien fans think, but most importantly, doesn't care what Tolkien thinks. I mean, it's the same way when people try to do What is it? Like, "Oh, this is what Jane Austen would have done if she did it today." Maybe. No, but what made Jane Austen was Jane Austen. People live in a certain time and place for things. Jacob says Warner Brothers pushed the movie through to hold on to the rights. Yeah, but for crying out loud. I mean, this story could have written itself. Oh my gosh. Yeah, they also in this article give a whole bunch of quotes. I mean, compare this to the attitude of Peter Jackson when he said that they, want to be true to Tolkien's works and stuff. But I don't trust Jackson nowadays either. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Boyens touch upon the film's opening narration, which hears the shield maiden Eowyn explicitly tell the audience not to seek out any stories about her in the old songs because they literally do not exist. What? So how do you know it, Eowyn? That was deliberately saying to the audience, we know what we're doing here. We know. We understand that. Stay with us. I can't even. I just can't even. What arrogance. No, we know what you're doing. We know what you're doing, and it's not what you're trying to gaslight us into saying it is. Where we work from is just don't change something arbitrarily. If you're going to change something, do it for good storytelling reasons, and then anything you do to it, make it feel real and all that. We're not talking about some of the changes made in The Lord of the Rings, which some of which were kind of annoying in those movies. I've talked about them extensively. We're talking about changing the entire protagonist. We're talking about if they decided to adapt The Lord of the Rings and instead of making Frodo the ring bearer, they made Rosie. Rosie joins the Fellowship of the Rings and is the ring bearer. This is not a small change. Oh. Oh, and then she gaslights us. We can't do anything to those books. Those books are going to stand as these masterpieces, hopefully to the end of time. We can't ruin them. So people at you coming to say that you're ruining it, oops. You see, this is why I don't like bounding into comics. I'm judging you. Get rid of these articles. You can't even read it. It's unreadable. Because what it did was an ad just popped up so bad it messed things up. All right, here we go. For fuck's sake. Now you made me use the F bomb during Advent. All right. Oh, this is where she kind of gaslights about the letters. Professor Tolkien said in his letters that sometimes the most compelling story is the untold story, said Boyens, referencing the author's January 30th, 1945 letter to his son Christopher. The actual quote reads, "A story must be told or there'll be no story. Yet it is the untold stories that are the most moving." Yeah. Yeah, the untold story. Oh my gosh. She knows what she's doing. What a terrible, 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 terrible thing to say. Oh, okay. I'm back to the original quote because bounding into comics messed it up. All right. So this is where she says, we can't ruin them. So people come at you saying, oh, you ruined this or you ruined that. No, all we did was presented you with an adaptation of this work. You see, that's where she's saying a small truth and then throwing in something else. I mean, she's right. Nobody can ruin it. I mean, the work does stand on its own, but that's the worst kind of thing. Oh, Oh, salty traveling. You made me get my blood pressure up. Leave them untold. That's what it means. Yeah. Yeah, it's like again, I'll come back to it. Well, since Mozart died when he was 30, there was lots of music he could have written, so I'm going to do it. And, people say he would have written a lot more if he hadn't died. Yeah. But the powerful story that was untold is not your story to tell. See, that's the thing. It's not your story to tell. Tell your own daggone story. And you see, this is different than an adaptation. I would argue that what they did with The Lord of the Rings was an adaptation. This is not an adaptation. This is something entirely different. I just couldn't even believe what I just read. All right, what is Solly Travely telling me? The lies with a straight face, just outright gaslighting and playing dumb. Yeah, and it's playing dumb. These people know exactly what they're doing. And you see, they think, well, I'll reference the letters. Well, guess what, kids? I have a whole playlist of Tolkien's letters. Now I'm going to have to do a letter of J.R. Tolkien again, which is probably good for me. I am finally a free woman. I have been inundated with work these last few weeks, which is good because money, but also, yeah, so now I can be doing more videos and things, and I'm going to try to get a backlog actually during the Christmas holidays so that if I do get busy with work again, I can take care of that. Oh, it's coming. It's coming, kids. The nerve of the talentless hacks, says Timon, to think they can change anything or write something. I mean, it would be like me writing one of those little, putting a bunch of people in Regency dresses and saying, this is the novel Jane Austen didn't write. One that comes to mind is Death Comes to Pemberley. I want to use this as an example. The reason why Death Comes to Pemberley didn't tick me off is because the writer was making it very clear that this was not like Jane Austen's story. Or if she did, I don't recall. It was fiction. It was fan fiction. They presented it as such. It's like, this is what we thought would be fun. They didn't try to say it was true to it. You see, and that's where I think that their gaslighting comes from, because they know that Tolkien fans are so knowledgeable. Yet at the same time, they're pretending like we're stupid. I don't think these people actually understand Tolkien. See, Tolkien is on a pedestal for a reason. If you read Author of the Century by Tom Shippey, he gives a very long explanation about why The Lord of the Rings is the book of the century, why Tolkien is the author of the century, and the level that he is at. It's a cash grab, and they're gaslighting us. Salty Traveling Sea said, this is what they did to the Wheel of Time. It's not an adaptation or interpretation. It's a cancerous growth off of Tolkien's name. Darn right. Darn right. Whew. I could make video off of that, and I might. I need to find and judge. Pounding into comics. They should put their link in their article. Or if they did, it was too hard to find because of the adverts, which are very annoying. I got to keep track of the time. All right. I am. Well, we know that that's not what Tolkien's story is. Now we're going to go into story time, because the last time I did story time, I kind of messed it up. Because I'll be honest with you. I'm always honest, but I'll be more honest with you. I didn't have my glasses on. So I was really having trouble. Really having trouble. And help me if I'm mispronouncing anything. Yeah, so we're going to go into story time, kids. We're going to go back to story time. Let's see the story that Tolkien wrote. And now that I have my glasses, let's do this a little better. And see if what she's saying is in any way true. This is in Appendix A, and my paperback version, to which I am reading, is page, was it 381. Of the kings of the Mark, between Errol and Theoden, most is said of Helm Hammerhand. He was a grim man of great strength. There was at that time a man named Freka, who claimed descent from King Freowyne, though he had, men said, much Dunlandish blood, and was dark-haired. How dare he? He was a Baratheon and not a Targaryen. He grew rich and powerful, having wide lands on either side of the Adorn. Near its source, he made himself a stronghold and paid little heed to the king. Helm mistrusted him, but called him to his councils, and he came when it pleased him. What a French shower this guy sounds like. No wonder Helm didn't like him. To one of these councils, Freka rode with many men, and he asked the hand of Helm's daughter for his son Wolf. Hey, that must be Hera, right? Wrong, it is not. Or it could be somebody or anybody, because she is not named, and that's all we hear of her. But Helm said, "You have grown big since you were last here, but it is mostly fat, I guess." And men laughed at that, for Freka was wide in the belt. Then Freka fell in a rage and reviled the king, and said this at the last: "Old kings that refuse a proffered staff may fall on their knees." Ooh, trash talking. Helm answered, "Come, the marriage of your son is a trifle. Let Helm and Freka deal with it later. Meanwhile, the king and his council have matters of moment to consider." So basically, STFU, we got bigger things. We know he's going to be dealing with it. When the council was over, Helm stood up and laid his great hand on Freka's shoulder, saying, "The king does not permit brawls in his house, but men are freer outside." The equivalent of you're in the saloon. It's like, take it outside, boys. And he forced Freka to walk before him out from Edoras into the field. To Freka's men that came up, he said, "Be off. We need no hearers. We are going to speak of a private matter alone. Go and talk to my men." And they looked and saw that the king's men and his friends far outnumbered them, and they drew back. So it's like, yeah, we're going to have a discussion here. Whew. "Now, Dunlading," said the king, you have only Helm to deal with, alone and unarmed. But you have said much already, and it is my turn to speak. Freka, your folly has grown with your belly." Dang. Hey, he's fat shaming. How dare he? That's not nice. "Your folly has grown with your belly. You talk of a staff? If Helm dislikes a crooked staff that is thrust on him, he breaks it so." And with that, I shouldn't be laughing. And with that, he smote Freka such a blow with his fist that he fell back stunned and died soon after. That is awesome. Helm then proclaimed Freka's son and near kin the king's enemies, and they fled. For at once Helm sent many men riding to the west marches. He's a big dude. I can just see him just punching him out and killing him. But that's the way it's done. You don't talk to the king like that, or I guess ask for the daughter's hand in marriage. That was really bad, apparently. He took that as a grave insult. Like, be careful, people. 4 years later, great troubles came to Rohan, and no help could be sent from Gondor. Every time I read that, I laugh. I think of the meme. Where was Gondor? Well, Gondor couldn't send help. Sorry, Gondor. Or rather, Rohan. Gondor is not available. It never seems to be. For 3 fleets of the Corsairs attacked it. Yeah, hey, we got some old enemies here. Turning the page. 382. And there was war on all its coasts. At the same time, Rohan was again invaded from the east, and the Dunlendings seeing their chance to come over the Isen and down from Isengard. It was soon known that Wulf was their leader. They were in great force. They were in great force, for they were joined by the enemies of Gondor that landed in the mouths of the rivers that I'm not going to pronounce. Well, look who is here. It is Ancient One. Hello, Ancient One. Welcome to Miss Martin's Castle of Roses, our beloved rose in a flower pot that somehow levitates. I do indeed. Check her out as seen here. Thank you very much. And please follow and hug, like that button for her content. Yes, thank you very much. Much appreciated. Yes, we're doing the story that Tolkien wrote. The Rohirrim were defeated and their land was overrun, and those who were not slain or enslaved fled to the dales of the mountains. Helm was driven back with great loss from the crossings of Isen and took refuge in the Hornburg and the ravine behind, which was after known as Helm's Deep. No mention of Hera coming and, leading them and saving them and distracting them and all this stuff. Yeah, just kind of a big old battle and things and showing that we don't need to have this non-character character doing what she was described as doing. So here we are. Yay, we're at Helm's Deep. There he was besieged. Wulf took Edoras and sat in Meduseld and called himself king. I told you, it was already there. So, Wulf, you suck. There, Haleth, Helm's son, fell, last of all, defending the doors. Oh, he was trying to hold the door and died. So, very brave man, very brave indeed. Everyone is saying hello to each other. We love everyone here at Miss Smart Muses. Please like, share, and subscribe early and often. All right. So we're holding the door and he died. R.I.P. Soon after, the long winter began, and Rohan lay under snow for nearly 5 months. It says here from November to March, 2758 to 9. Oh my gosh. That reminds me of Little House on the Prairie with the long winter. Yeah, you like die and starve and freeze to death. Y'all catch pneumonia, all sorts of things. We've almost gotten freezing here, and it's been quite a burden. Especially my cat pretends he's dying. Yeah, more people really need to realize that Tolkien did never read kind of stuff. Yeah, and he certainly didn't give anyone else permission to do it for him. This is where Helm just is such a badass. I love him. Let's see what Helm was up to. All right. Both the Rohirrim and their foes suffered grievously in the cold and in the dearth that lasted longer. In Helm's Deep, there was a great hunger after Yule. Speaking of Yule, yay! You see, they celebrated things like Yule and all of that in the world of Middle-earth. We're about ready to celebrate it ourselves, and I am getting a bûche de Noël with my family, which I will take a picture of and show everyone. So anyways, in Helm's Deep, there was a great hunger after Yule, and being in despair, against the king's counsels, Hama, his younger son, led men out on a sortie and foray, but they were lost in the snow. Man, he lost another son. Hello, everyone coming in. Please like, share, and subscribe early and often. We are having story time. This is a story Tolkien wrote. We did earlier the story that Tolkien did not write, the most horrendous one. Isn't at the same time the Shire is besieged by wolves? I do not know, to be fair. Because this was 200 years beforehand. I'll just have to say, I don't know. Everyone look up 2758. What was happening in the Shire? So now he's dead. Helm grew fierce and gaunt for famine and grief, and the dread of him alone was worth many men in the defense of the burg. Nice. Yeah. We got ourselves a bereaved man that's big and with a nickname Hammerhead. Wait, not Hammerhead. Janie Mac. Hammer hand, not head. All right, let me focus here. So what would he do in his grief and his famine and being very cold? He would go out by himself, clad in white, and stalk like a snow troll into the camps of his enemies and slay many men with his hands. I love it. I love it so much. This guy's a beast. It was believed that if he bore no weapon no weapon would bite on him. The Dunlending said that if he could find no food, he ate men. So we've got cannibal. We've got Helm the cannibal. That might have been a myth, though, but imagine having that kind of a legend around you. This guy is so fierce, he's going to come out and feed on you. The Dunlending said that if he could find... Oh, wait, I said that. That tale lasted long in Dunland. Helm had a great horn, and soon it was marked that before he sallied forth, he would blow a blast upon it that echoed in the deep. And then so great a fear fell on his enemies that instead of gathering to take him or kill him, they fled down the combe. I would have. Oh, heck yes. I'm not messing around with this. A Dig Outlaw said, at that time, the Shire was saved by Gandalf during the cold. Thank you. Thank you for helping out there. The Shire was besieged by white wolves in 2911. Thank you, everyone. You see, we have the best guests here. So 2911, so that was not the same time, but this was the long winter and long cold. Hell, all right, I'm going to have to do something else here. Some more videos and things. Gosh, I love getting back into this mythology. The only thing I love more than Tolkien's mythology is the Tolkien's true mythology, what he called the true myth. Of course, Christianity. And I do things on Catholic explaining. So if you want to know about what Tolkien considered the true myth, I do have a Catholic explaining Advent, which we are in right now. But yeah, I love it. I love all this stuff. All right, let's get back to it. I lost where I was. Okay. One night, men heard the horn blowing, but Helm did not return. In the morning, there came a sun gleam, the first for long days, and they saw a white figure standing still on the dike, alone. For none of the Dunlendings dared come near. There stood Helm, dead as stone, but his knees were unbent. Boom. See how the way Tolkien tells his story is just so much cooler? Oh my gosh. Dang. And Philip O'Boyne's had the nerve to say, it's like, well, you know, we had to expand on it. There were really a lot of it. Like, look at all this that's here. Look at all this that's here. They could have, I mean, there's definitely enough for 90 minutes to 2 hours of a movie without adding or No, don't give up. Okay. I mean, all these battles alone. I mean, for crying out loud, Peter Jackson spent like an hour on his battles in the Two Towers and in the Return of the King. They had plenty of material. Don't even go there. Don't go there, kids. Quit the gaslighting. All right. So he's dead. Yet men said that the horn was still heard at times in the deep, and the wraith of Helm would walk among the foes of Rohan and would walk among the foes of Rohan and kill men with fear. This dude is killing people from the grave just by scaring them to death. That's what I call a badass. By the way, where's the mention of Olwyn or whatever, the aunt? Oh, no other chick is in this story. Okay, here's what they should have done. If they wanted to quote unquote expand it or something and been true to authentic women literature, stories, heroes, all that kind of stuff, it's always been the unsung heroes of the women, that the women's heroism in being who they are within their sphere, and that just because they weren't doing men things, that what they did was equally heroic. I have issues a little bit with the series of Call the Midwife, or certain things about Call the Midwife, but the whole aspect of it is showing things like midwives. Those are heroes, women who kept the hearth together, women who used subversion. If they wanted to do something with Helm's daughter, wouldn't it have been awesome if they'd have shown her like subverting, what's his face and all of the Dunledings during that occupation? That would have been authentic femininity. But no, a woman has to be like a man according to them. A woman has to be like a man, quote unquote, to be a hero. It's almost as though they actually are proving something far more patriarchal and sexist. And the thing about Eowyn, I Am No Man, first of all, there was more to it in the book, of course, but she laughed at it. It's like, you're not dealing with a man. It is Eowyn. You're dealing with a woman. It's like she was standing up as a woman, not as a man. And then her denouement was with Faramir, where they're deciding to settle in, and she's going to become a healer, and both of them are going to do so and have a family and go off to Thillion. Yeah. That's how they could have done this Hera person if they had wanted to. If anyone knows in the chat how they pronounce her in the show or something, let me know. Yeah. Yeah, she could have been subverting Wolf and Edoras. Let's see, okay, I've already said that. All right, let's continue. Continuing with story time. He killed them with fear. I love it. Soon after, the winter broke. Then Freyleth, son of Hild, Helm's sister, came down out of Dunharrow. Wait a second. There was an aunt. Her name was Hild. And Freyleth, son of Hild, Helm's sister, came down out of Dunharrow, to which many had fled. And with a small company of desperate men, he surprised Wulf in Meduseld and slew him. Meduseld. Gosh, help me out here. I'm having trouble with pronunciation this morning. I need another cup of coffee. And slew him. And regained Edoras. There were great floods after the snow, and the Vale of Entwash became a vast fen. The eastern invaders perished or withdrew, and there came help at last from Gondor. Finally, where was Gondor? Gondor finally came. Yeah, I think because of the Yeah, the winter was also keeping Gondor away as well as all their other wars. By the roads both east and west of the mountains. Before the year 2759 was ended, the Dunlendings were driven out, yay, even from Isengard, and then Freylof became king, yay! Helm was brought from the Hornburg and laid in the 9th mound. Ever after... Okay, I'm not going to try to say it because it looks like it's some sort of Scandinavian Old English word, and I'm going to butcher it. So, ever after the white word I'm not going to pronounce grew there most thickly, so that the mound seemed to be snow-clad. Dang it! I could just sit and read this all day. When Freylof died, a new line of mounds was begun. Aww. The Rohirrim were grievously reduced by war and death and loss of cattle and horses, and it was well that no danger threatened them again for many years, for it was not until the time of King... I'm going to mispronounce it, so I'm not going to say this, that they recovered their former strength. I believe it's Fulquine. It was at the crowning of Freylof that Saruman appeared. Hey, Saruman! So you see, they actually have something. Kind of accurate in the show, but not the way they described it, of course, because that's not the way Tolkien wrote it. And I do know that it has been brought to people's attention that Christopher Lee would not be happy about having his voice used in this stuff. I don't frequently speak for the dead, but I think that I can say this with almost 1,000% moral certainty. He would not be okay with this. Okay, yeah. Athlethia, no Rohirrim names are Scandinavian. I'm not sure about Hera, but Athleth is pronounced Aethelfleed. The Old English ash sounds different depending on whether it's accented or not. Okay, thank you for the correction. Yeah, when I say Scandinavian, it's yeah. Well, I mean, it comes up from the Old English, which is also, I mean, there's a whole sorts of etymology there. Yeah. But I do know people that are Scandinavian that can somehow pronounce it far better than I. But thank you. It's Aethelfleed. So Aethelfleed. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, Tolkien gives us in his letters some very long explanations of all that. And I love that he did. Let's see. Okay, Saruman appeared. That's where I was. Saruman appeared, bringing gifts and speaking great praise of the valor of the Rohirrim. All thought him a welcome guest. Soon after, he took up his abode in Isengard. For this, Beren, steward of Gondor, gave him leave, for Gondor still claimed Isengard as a fortress of its realm and not a part of Rohan. Beren also gave into Saruman's keeping the keys of Orthanc. That tower no enemy has been able to harm or to enter. Mm-hmm. So you see, things are being set up. Okay. So let's look at the denouement. In this way, Saruman began to behave as a lord of men, for at first he held Isengard as a lieutenant of the steward and warden of the tower. But Freylof was as glad as Beren to have this so, and to know that Isengard was in the hands of a strong friend, a friend he long seemed, and many in the beginning he was one in truth. Though afterwards there was little doubt in men's minds that Saruman went to Isengard in hope to find the stone still there, and with the purpose of building up a power of his own. And we all know how that goes. Certainly, after the last White Council, 2953, his designs toward Rohan, though he hid them, were evil. He then took Isengard for his own and began to make it a place of guarded strength and fear, as though to rival the Barad-dûr rather. His friends and servants he drew then from all who hated Gondor and Rohan, whether men or other creatures more evil. And there it is. There it is. That is a story that Tolkien wrote. And I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, Alethea. I hope I'm doing that. And I completely forgot to accent the A when I wrote that. Hey, that's quite all right. Again, these are not things. Well, what can I say? Everything I have is set up in English. No, but definitely thank you for helping me with the pronunciation because I really can't do it. It doesn't sound well. Yeah. Yes, we are definitely getting toward the end here. At the beginning, we went through the other story that definitely was not Tolkien's story, but for crying out loud, don't even begin to tell me that there wasn't enough here. Write what Tolkien wrote for epicness and amazement. But no, they decided, well, we've got to do all this stuff. And what was it? She chokes Wolf to death with a sword. I mean, for crying out loud. Yeah, and he was the one who slew him, Freylif. It wasn't a Freylof, rather. Once again, if I'm mispronouncing that, mea culpa. But he was the one who killed him. They totally changed the story. That's not like, you see, such gaslighting that Philippa Boyens was doing. That is changing the story, not adapting it. I mean, it was right there. That would be if they decided at the end of The Lord of the Rings to have Sam take the ring and throw it in. Leave out Gollum or anything, or in Frodo. Though we know in many ways that Sam is and has been described by Tolkien as a true hero, or one of the biggest heroes of the tale. However, yeah. I missed the beginning, laugh a lot. I don't plan on watching this movie though. Oh gosh, no. I mean, it was just the fact that this daughter of Helm challenges Wolf to single combat. He stabs her, and her aunt throws her a sword, and she chokes Wolf to death with it, and somehow survives getting stabbed. That is just absurd on so many levels. And yeah, and once again, help me with the pronunciation of your name. The languages that I know best are Irish and German. And ecclesiastical Latin, but I can't speak it. I can pronounce it because I have to of singing and liturgy. So yeah, I'm not I don't have the phonemes for these kind of things. But everyone that's coming in, if you are here for the first time, please go ahead and give me a subscribe. I love talking about these things, and I love being educated myself. I do believe I went into some of the etymology of the Rohirrim names when I did the Eowyn, quote unquote, Black Eowyn video. Yeah. Though my areas are in anthropology and history and music and political science and geography. I spent half my life in college. What can I say? Though my two main ones actually are music and history. Yeah, I'm not seeing it. Why would I pay money for this? Oh my gosh. I mean, I said earlier I'd rather eat paste. I'd rather watch paint dry. I'd rather, what is that song by Weird Al Yankovic? I'd rather slam my fingers in the door again and again and again and again. I'd rather I'd rather rip out my intestines with a fork. I'd rather do all of these things than watch this. Yeah. Not gonna pay money for it. Not even gonna pay money for it at those places where you can go where you can have dinner while you watch a movie. Yeah. If I were to say any therefore to my therefore on all of this is therefore, my friends, read the books. I mean, I read that to you and I just really enjoyed revisiting it. It's not often that a girl sits around and is like, let's read through the appendix. Well, you know what? Even the appendix it's like circles around Tolkien. Or rather, circles around this. And don't give me any of this garbage. Don't give me any of this garbage. They could have added instead of subtracted. They need to start learning both and not either or. As I told you, my opinion is if they wanted to expand the role of Helm's daughter, they could have in a way that was very beautiful and very feminine and what we call the feminine genius. When they try to make a woman like a man to make her worthwhile or worthy of being talked about, they are actually diminishing femininity. They are diminishing womanhood. They are diminishing the female genius. Crying out loud. Absurd. And don't you dare lecture us, Philippa Boyens, and all of you writers. No one died and made you the custodian of Tolkien's works. I really just can't imagine what Christopher Tolkien would be saying about all of this. Notice they did these things after his death. And his son, I don't count. His son obviously doesn't care. He sees dollar signs. Can you imagine, though, if this is what they did with this very straightforward telling? All you have to do is basically dictate from the page to the screen to make this cartoon, this animated movie. What on earth are they going to do with this Gollum tale? What a nightmare that's going to be. Janie Macaroni. Lord have mercy upon us all. Oh, I've got some comment. That is, oh, okay. Thank you. I had, it wasn't allowing me to say this. Thank you. I had a mod that took care of it. Zell, hello, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. After the travesty of the Rings of Power, I'd rather stick my something that rhymes with Nick in a blender than watch this. I'll stick with the books. Darn right. Yeah, and this whole gaslighting thing, it's not going to ruin the books. No, it's not going to ruin the books. We know it's not going to ruin the books. It's like saying The Chosen is going to ruin the Bible. Actually, the other absurd thing, though, about The Chosen is when people say, The Chosen makes me like the Bible, or rather, it, like, enhances the Bible. No, the Bible is just fine the way it is. However, if it does make you want to read the Bible and all that, make you enjoy it, well, that's great as well. But no, we know that. They're acting like we're stupid. Gee, I mean, trust me, if you are a fan of Tolkien's books, writings, lore, his legendarium, you've read the Silmarillion 200 million thousand times, you've read his letters, studied him, trust me, that doesn't make you stupid. So she's acting like we're stupid. And you see, she doesn't understand. She doesn't understand his work. The same thing with the Rings of Power people. They don't get it. They don't get it because they don't accept it. But here's the thing. Even if you do not accept something about someone's writings or someone's outlook on the world, that doesn't make it less so. I know some people have some issues with some of what Tolkien himself has said about his own works, even though he explicitly says so. It's like that's what he said it was. It's not your job to change what a man has said about himself and his writings and his works. So I'm sorry, Philippa. This is the story he wrote. Don't try to gaslight us into something otherwise. Or into saying it's an adaptation. It is not an adaptation. I probably better take that down. There we go. Ancient One says, next thing you know, the Lord of the Rings, the Roar, the Rohirrim. I keep wanting to say Rohirrim. Genie, I'm sorry about that. Rohirrim. I don't know why. I'm donating my brain to science. Ends up becoming a horrific flop. It gets overshadowed by Sonic the Hedgehog 3 as they are panicking and going insane. Well, most likely Sonic the Hedgehog will be a big success if it's coming out. I haven't been paying attention to that. You see, they need to appeal to their audience. What happened with the movies, the Lord of the Rings trilogy? It was fans. It was people like me rushing to see it as soon as we could at midnight. That was when it was truly a midnight release. We couldn't wait to be there. And it also ingeniously appealed to the normies. I would argue part of it was because it was true enough to the story, and the story is appealing. This story is not appealing. I don't know who it will be appealing to. I'm going to be doing a video in a bit, or maybe even a live stream. I'm going to see what will work out about Wicked, which, by the way, was a magnificent film because it did exactly what it was supposed to do. It took the musical, the stage musical, and put it to the screen and used the medium of film to just give us Wicked. They didn't do anything else. They didn't change it. But Timon says, pending the size of this flop, Gollum may go directly to streaming. Interesting. I'm not sure. Maybe it might make them change their mind. So I think that it's a done deal that it's going to be going to the big screen. Oh, Ancient One is telling us something. Say Rohirrim 3 times fast. Let's try it. Rohirrim. Ugh. Cell says, the best adaptation of Tolkien's work, in my opinion, is the Lord of the Rings BBC dramatization from 1981. Ah, indeed. Yes. That was great. Really great stuff. I also think that the only adaptations we're going to see that's going to be worth a darn from here on out are going to be the graphic novels. For example, The Wheel of Time or the Thrawn trilogy, the true sequel to Star Wars. We have the graphic novels. That's the only way we're going to get them. Because they tend to adapt them straight, which they should. All right. Yes, indeed. Oh, good times indeed. Well, I'm going to have to go ahead and stop because I need to rest my voice. Let's see. So please stay tuned. What's upcoming? Well, I'm going to be obviously doing some more letters. Thank you, Philippa Woynes of J.R. Tolkien upcoming. I have some videos coming up about some of the Snape issues and Teresa Travels. I'm trying to bring back Teresa Travels for the new year. Teresa Travels Tuesdays and We the People Wednesdays. That is the plan. We shall see if the plan goes to plan. I'm going to try to be more true to Monday musings. Doing it on Monday. What else? Catholic Explaining is going to be returning on Sundays. I'm going to be making them more premieres and videos. That's the plan there. More Letters of Tolkien. Wheel of Time content. Ooh, Dexter Original Sin. Yes, I watched it last night, so I'm going to be talking about that. If you haven't watched it, I'd be very interested in what your thoughts are. So when I do that, so please stay tuned. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. Zell says, it was nice to pop in and meet you and look forward to more. Oh, well, thank you. And while you're here, if you haven't already subscribed, please go ahead and do so and hit the bell. That's probably the best way to make sure you get my content because of the way things are with YouTube. And of course, I forgot to mention more House of the Dragon content. and Fire and Blood, which I absolutely love. And maybe George R. R. Martin will say something that makes me mad again, so I'll get to bash him for another hour. Ancient One says, one thing is certain, if the Roar of the Rohirrim ends up becoming a flop, I'll be thrilled, much more due to Sonic the Hedgehog overshadowing it along with Mufasa. Ah, I forgot about Mufasa. I don't have any desire to see that either. So let Sonic the Hedgehog all the way. And if you are so inclined, go see Wicked. I think that you will be able to disassociate with some of the ridiculous things that the lead actress has said very easily. I'll talk about that in my review. If you like musicals. If you don't like musicals, you won't like Wicked. This is a clear example of it wasn't made for you. It was made for theater fans, and that's why it was so dang good. And people like Philippa Boyens need to take a cue from that. When you give the fans what they want, when you respect the fans, and you create a great product, people will come. Move flops. Ironically, the Mufasa movie will be as dead as he is. I love it. I mean, my mama, she really loves The Lion King, and she's just like, what? What? So she's not going to go see it, because usually she goes to see those things in the cinema. She likes to see things in the cinema because it's real big and stuff, because, she's legally blind. Unless my brother wants to go see it, because sometimes he does. That's usually when she goes to the cinema, though. What's really funny, now that I'm on a tangent, my mother loves Wicked so much, and she's like afraid she's going to die before next year. So that's why they shouldn't have made it 2 parts. Trust me, she's in good health, but she's not young. She's like 78. She's like, if I die before I see part 2, I'm going to be mad. So there. Jason Monroe is here. Hater, LOL. Am I a hater? Yes, I am. Well, my tagline is, what makes me happy makes me sad, or just really ticks me off. Now, there's a part of me that would absolutely love to be able to eat this up. If this were good, if this was a good adaptation, if this was the story that Tolkien wrote, I would be in there every day. And I'm not joking. I did it with The Lord of the Rings, as long as they were. I saw them like 5 days in a row straight in the cinema. I would be giving them all my money. All my money. It is sort of Poopa Scoober. We love our animals here at Miss Smart Muses. Thank you for being here. Hello, hello. In fact, they are releasing said prequel now. The movie will be dead away. Yeah. Commander Snorty. Yeah, everyone loves Snorty. And speaking of animals, I've got mine here. I didn't have to fight him too hard this time because I wasn't wearing my earphones, so he wasn't trying to yank them out. Usually he tries to attack my earphones and attack my computer. An Ancient One says, or should I say FDOA, financially dead on arrival. Yeah. The only concern of mine, if there is a concern, this movie only cost $30 million to make, so it's possible it might do well. I will be very interested to see the analysis from the weekend box office, but I think it needs to make $60 million to break even, and to be profitable, break $100 million, which is possible. Sorry about that. My voice. This is why I need to have some tea, because actually I need to have my singing voice good for mass. Let's see. Sort of Poopa Scoober says, I remember seeing a review. One of the made-up female characters has some weird name that doesn't sound remotely Anglo-Saxon like Rohirrim names are supposed to. Could be Hera. Oh, because they said, oh, you know what? Going back to what was pointed out about the etymology of some of the Rohirrim names, using Icelandic. Well, I need to double check on that, but they based it on an Icelandic name and an actress. Okay. And was it Olwyn? I think was one of them. That was another made up character. They just put WYN on something and think that it makes it sound Tolkien, and then whatever. Zell says, this is why I raise my kids and stuff I grew up with. Modern stuff is rubbish. Yeah. And with my nieces and my niece and nephew, when they were kids, we just inundated them with this stuff, and the kids loved it. Loved it. It's like people say, how do I get my kids to not like garbage music? And I say, from the moment they're in the womb, and yes, when they are babies in the womb, start to play classical music, especially Mozart. Why Mozart? They've done studies on it, that there's something about that man's music. And then when they're out of the womb and can start to speak, sing and stuff, start to teach them nursery rhymes, speaking nursery rhymes, and then singing them, and especially singing our basic folk songs. A lot of things like Rain, Rain, Go Away, things that go along with games, that Ring Around the Rosie, they are great literature. They are great songs on top of classical music. It's the same thing with these movies. Expose them to good stuff, and they will enjoy that and know the garbage when they see it. It's like someone told me that the way that people discover counterfeits when they're training people, I think before we had machines, they wouldn't show them counterfeits. They would make them day in and day out live with real money, so that when the counterfeit came up, they were able to tell. Do not be deceived. Ancient One says, most of today's stuff is rubbish. We should be thankful that a handful have said things like Deadpool and Wolverine aren't. Yeah, I've heard that a lot of people enjoyed that. I did not see that, mainly because, well, it wasn't made for me. It's just not something I have anything of interest in, but I've heard a lot of people enjoyed it. So I'm very happy for all those that enjoyed it. I might be mispronouncing this. Otaku Senpai, sorry, just discovered the stream. Oh, well, no, don't be sorry. Well, thank you for being here. Yeah, maybe you can listen to from the beginning. I go through the actual, rather the plot of the movie versus Tolkien's version of the story. And if you haven't liked, shared, and subscribed, please go ahead and do so. You're most welcome. I love everyone here at Miss Bart Muses. I am nothing without the audience, and for all of you coming in. Zell said, my kids listen to whatever I put on the car, usually classic rock, but Queen, Led Zeppelin, Van Halen, etc. Yeah. Well, actually, Queen is great music. Yeah. The old rock is pretty good. Otaku Senpai said, haven't seen the movie yet, but Tolkien's story seems to be mostly there, if a bit buried in the additional stuff. Well, if you're not spoiled, I won't spoil it for you. I'll wait. Interesting. Come back to me. Come back to me in the comments after you've seen it or read the synopsis. I read the synopsis cold earlier, and I couldn't believe what I was reading. Great show. Bye, you all. Well, thank you, Jacob Ironside. And please, if you have not subscribed to Jacob Ironside or everyone on here, go ahead and do so. Lots of good material, because we need to be focusing on what's good out there. You know what I mean? Things that make you happy. Like, for example, one thing I'm reading right now is, for the first time, I'm reading the Forgotten Realms books, R.A. Salvatore books, and I will be discussing them on my end of the year streams, because I always do a book reading goal. If you haven't read The Wheel of Time, what are you waiting for? Read The Wheel of Time. The old Star Wars EU. See the original Star Wars movies. I mean, hell, even the prequels look like masterpieces compared to what we have now. Watch the old Lord of the Rings movies, but more importantly, read Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. Every time I reread them, I forget how amazing they are. Absolutely amazing that they are. And if you haven't already, I've got a playlist of us going through the books and going through the lore and taking certain characters and doing deep dives into them. And I also have the letters of Tolkien. Adega Outlaw says, once I finish my last 2 works, I'll get back to reading. Yes. Oh, Adega Outlaw is an author. You know what? For crying out loud, I think I have you on my wish list, but I'm gonna go ahead and buy your book. About but yeah, buy his book. You can get it on Amazon. So he does have a series. Otaku Senpai says, I do get the necessity for Hero to fill the gap between Helm's death and the end of the siege. Of course, the film goes far beyond that. Yeah, and changes the ending, changes how it ends. And I said earlier that if they wanted to expand the daughter's role, there was a way to do it without taking it away from the established characters. But my goodness, when you see the way that Helm was being just a beast, like this snow troll going through, and they could have done the build up to the battle just in a very similar way that Peter Jackson did in the Lord of the Rings movies. That, yes. Yeah. Additional stuff meaning poop. Yeah. I'm currently rereading Terry Pratchett's Discworld series. Oh, very nice. 2 thumbs up. Yeah, I think I've said that I'm reading I'm in the Cleric Quintet currently. I'm also for the first time reading the Duncan Egg stories. I refuse to continue reading A Song of Ice and Fire if that man will not finish them. Every time I would start rereading them is because he gives a hint that he's getting done with them, and then he doesn't. So screw him. But things like Fire and Blood, Duncan Egg, those are fun. I'm really enjoying Duncan Egg. What else am I reading? Oh, I'm reading this old Icelandic lore of the kings. I will not try to pronounce it at all, but it's really fun. It's real history. I love reading real history, and I've been reading biographies of the Kennedys. Those are also good. Helm's son fills the gap. Darn right he does. To be fair, nothing says Freylof personally killed Wolf. It says here that Freylof, son of Hild, Helm's sister, came out of Dunharrow to which he had fled, and with a small company of desperate men, he surprised Wolf and Medused and slew him and regained Edoras. It says he surprised him and slew him. Wait, did I say sailed? Yeah. So that's pretty darn close. It wasn't Freya or Hera, whatever her name is. Do you want to know how it happens? I mean, challenges him to single combat and chokes him with his sword. Okay, sorry if that's a spoiler. Helm's sons both die before him, at least in the original. That is correct. Yeah, so though I'm just saying, I think, oh wait, they died before him. Oh, I see what you're saying. But gotcha. The chronology. Oh, I can see what both of you are saying there. Yeah, maybe I misspoke. Let me double check because dang it, I just got done reading it. Oh yeah, because they were all dead. That Hell sums fill the gap. Okay. Yeah, because they could really focus on those stories, but yeah, you're right. It is before, so but there's not really a long time after Helm dies before the battle. Yeah, because right after the winter breaks. And I've even said if they wanted to fill in a gap with the daughter, they could have had her doing so in a more realistic way. Like there's nothing wrong with expanding her role. Everyone pretty much forgave Jackson for what he did with Arwen, expanding that role. But if they had made Arwen the main character of The Lord of the Rings, no one would have forgiven him. But that might have been better. Oh, well, it says he slew him, but yeah, whatever. I think I already said that. I'm behind. Helm's son. Okay, I see that there. Ancient One says yes. Oh, okay. Oh, yes, if her role was expanded, they should have done exactly how you described it. Yeah, that would have been great. Yeah, but as I said, I'll be very interested to see what you have to say, Atoku Senpai, once you have seen what they actually do and how they do it. Yeah, it's pretty bad. Jacob says, "Oh, they were both dead. I only read it once, so apologies." Yeah, no worries, no worries. They were both dead before it happened. Yeah. Hey, I made the mistake. I make mistakes too, even just after I just got done reading it, because I had it. I was thinking actually of Freylof, but that is not his son off the top of my head. And then yes, I stood corrected. So there we go. No problem there. And Toku Senpai says, granted, it's not clear if Freyla actually slew a wolf or it just happened that attack, but it can certainly be inferred. So I'll give you that. Oh, yeah, thank you. Well, like I said, I can tell you that it was nothing close to what's going to happen in the movie. Yeah. And again, there are interpretations, but the interpretations have to follow from they have to follow from something that even resembles logic. Cell says, I'm still a little bitter over the Arryn situation, mainly because I love the character of Glorfindel, but I understood why he changed it. Yeah. Yeah. I recall when I saw the movie for the first time, I was aware of what Arwen was going to do, replacing Glorfindel, and it still was jarring. I didn't like it. I mean, there's many things I didn't like that Jackson did. What he did to Faramir was unforgivable. And I will stand on that hill. But the rest of it was so magnificent and so well done, and so many things he did right. He will be forgiven, and people will be forgiven if the overall take is good. I think that people misunderstand, not people here, of course, not people in the chat. I'm talking about some of these writers that are trying to gaslight us into whatever they say. They misunderstand the difference between a few changes here and there and fundamentally changing the story. Otaku Senpai said, I would arguably make more sense for Hera to keep up the morale high during the rest of the siege. Yeah. Well, exactly. And, that's what I was saying, that this daughter of him, that they could have her doing that and even subverting. Women are sneaky. We're really sneaky. We have ways of getting stuff done. And that would have been cool if they insisted on doing that. Who was the king after Helm? It was Freylof. Yeah. And so they... oh, gosh. Yeah. Justice for Faramir, definitely. Oh, yeah. Don't give it... I was so mad at Peter Jackson. I was cursing. I mean, on the old OneRing.net forums, I was probably banned, and I didn't even check because I just was ranting and raving. Otaku Senpai said, well, I already knew that liberties were going to be taken. It does seem that they are more extreme than I would prefer. Yeah. Well, like I said, once you see it, let me know what you think, because they are far more than I thought at first. I agree 100% with you, says Sean Sue, about Faramir, but I'm fine with the Arwen thing. Yeah, the Arwen thing was annoying. The Faramir was unforgivable. Would you say that there should have been more character development earlier on? Maybe not, but I mean, I think that the story was told well enough in a straightforward manner. And I'm just saying that if they had to have a woman character, because we know that nowadays, yes, you do, it's actually written into the things, that they could have just done her well, just hanging out, doing what she does. But the main story should have been Helm Hammerhands and Freyalofs. They're the protagonists, in my humble opinion. Okay, Helm's nephew. Yes. Thought he was Helm's son. No, he was not. And they were talking about people may get confused because that's kind of like Amer. I was like, oh my gosh, no, we won't. We're not stupid. One complaint I've seen that Hera is not changed by the events of the film. Possibly. Again, I read this again. I don't know how much spoiled you want to be, what they end up doing at the end, but yeah, it's just like, ugh. And then the whole idea, well, the reason why no one knew about it was because it was, lost, and no, it's not. It's said, yeah, rant and rave, rant and rave. Everyone's saying hello. Yes, yes. It's so good to see you all, and that we're all getting to rant and rave together. I'm so pissed off. I'm pissed off. This is what I'm pissed off about because, yes, no one can hurt the story that Tolkien wrote, but I get pissed off when I think about what could have been. What could have been if they had just done it well. If they hadn't. Oh, Gandalf. Oh, don't get me started. It could have been a huge hit. It could have been something that me and the family all couldn't wait to see at Christmas time together, the way we did with the original Lord of the Rings movies. Same way I feel about Wheel of Time. What could have been. What could have been. They'd have just done it well. I mean, if you'd have given me that kind of a budget, oh, hell yes. Taku Senpai said, I do expect to mostly like the film, but maybe not to love it. Okay, yeah, all right. So I do need to go ahead and end. Everyone's been coming at the end, but I love it. Don't get me wrong. It's just that there are things that I need to get done. But thank you, everyone who has come in. And this has been a great, great conversation. Thank you, Ancient One, Otaku Senpai, Jacob Ironside, Snortapupus Kubur, and Sean Sue, Zell, Salty Traveling Sea popped in. We had Adega Outlaw. Thank you. Everyone go buy Adega Outlaw's book and read it. Jason Monroe, thank you for popping in. Timon was here. An Ancient One. I think I said Ancient One. Alethea, I believe, if I'm pronouncing that correct. Conroy, 1776. And if I missed anyone, please forgive me because it can jump around. Oh, and there is a super chat. There is a super chat for £4.99. Something for the therapy bill. Well, thank you, Zell. I really do appreciate it. And I did not realize you lived across the pond. So always great to see someone that lives across the pond. I spend a lot of my time in Ireland, and I have been to Chester and London. So good times, good times. Something for the therapy bill, £4.99. Thank you. And you, sir, get a rose. Oh, here's Biggles. Sorry, I was napping. Well, thank you to come in. Maybe if you could watch on the replay. Thank you. Tin like hype. Thank you very much. Take care, one of all, and Merry Christmas. In case I don't see you before then, yes, Happy Yuletide. Yeah, Merry Yuletide. Oh yeah, I celebrate it all. I celebrate it all because, of course, we ripped off everything, and I'm willing to admit that. And as Tolkien himself would have said. So today is the third Sunday of Advent. So if you do practice Advent, have fun repenting and preparing ye the way of the Lord. I've been trying to give up the F-bomb for Advent, and I failed because of this movie. So thank you for the therapy. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day, everyone. Have a great day. And be certain to read and enjoy good and uplifting fiction.